Lewis Hamilton just won at Ferrari, and now the man who beat him for a world title is warning the entire grid to be afraid. That is not a headline. That is Toto Wolff standing in the Barcelona paddock, choosing his words carefully and saying out loud what most of the paddock has been quietly thinking for 3 weeks. The 2026 title fight was supposed to be over by now. Kimi Antonelli had won 5 races in a row. Mercedes had won every single race of the season. Hamilton was 66 points down, and people were already writing him off. Then Barcelona happened, and the math changed completely. In this video, we are breaking down exactly why Hamilton's Barcelona win does more than just cut the gap to 41 points. We're looking at what's arriving in Austria, a Ferrari engine upgrade that has the paddock talking, and why both Wolff and Nico Rosberg are now publicly saying Hamilton is the most dangerous driver in Formula One. If you want this kind of breakdown every race weekend, the detail other F1 channels skip, subscribe to F1 Today right now. I'll be here every session in Austria. If you want to know exactly how much power Ferrari's new engine adds in Austria and what it means for Hamilton's title chances, subscribe. I'm covering every session of the Austrian GP this week. Why 41 points is not the real story. Let's start with the championship, because the number everyone is quoting is not the number that matters. Yes, Hamilton is 41 points behind Antonelli. That is the headline, but here is the context. One retirement can swing 25 points. Antonelli just had one in Barcelona. A race win gives you 25 points, a DNF for your rival gives you another 25. Suddenly, a 41-point gap is gone in a single afternoon. There are 15 races left in 2026. That is 375 points still available. Hamilton doesn't need to win them all. He just needs to do what he has been doing since China. Take podiums, stay out of trouble, and wait for Ferrari's development program to deliver. And in Austria, that program is about to take its biggest step yet. But here is what nobody is saying yet. Hamilton has now won 7 Barcelona Grand Prix starts from 7 attempts in his career. Barcelona is not where you go to find form. Barcelona is where you go when you already have it. The win wasn't a fluke. It was a pattern completing itself. The engine Ferrari has been building since January. Ferrari is arriving in Austria with something significant. The third version of the 067/6, Ferrari's 2026 power unit, built under ADUO pending FIA approval. Here is why that matters. Ferrari's engine was measured by the FIA as being between 6 and 8% below the benchmark internal combustion engine in the field. That is a large deficit. It qualifies them for 2 extra engine upgrades this year, one arriving in Austria and a second, more advanced version planned for Monza in September. The Austria upgrade is expected to add around 30 horsepower. That is not closing the gap to 0, but it is a meaningful step on circuits like the Red Bull Ring, Silverstone and Spa, 3 tracks coming up in the next 5 weeks, all of which are classified as high-energy, power-sensitive circuits where Ferrari has been most exposed this season. Ferrari has also revised the fuel specification for this upgrade, working with Shell's laboratory in Hamburg. The combustion concept runs hotter than anything on the grid right now. Intake air temperatures rising from over 100 degrees Celsius to beyond 115 from Austria onward. The physics behind that is simple. A hotter, higher pressure combustion chamber burns fuel more efficiently, converting more energy into mechanical power. The chassis was already fast enough to win in Barcelona. Now Ferrari is trying to make the engine match it. But that was just the start. Why the 2 people who know Hamilton best are sounding the alarm. This is the part of the story that deserves the most attention. After Barcelona, 2 people spoke about Lewis Hamilton in a way that should concern everyone fighting him for the 2026 title. Toto Wolff, Hamilton's former team principal at Mercedes, the man who built the most dominant team in F1 history around him, stood in front of the cameras and said, "I would rather not have to fight him for a title. If he smells blood, he goes for it. When the Lewis Hamilton train starts rolling, it's very difficult to stop." And at minute 4 o'clock, here is what makes Wolff's words different from ordinary praise. He has watched Hamilton build momentum before. He watched it happen 6 times. He knows the pattern. The wins create confidence. The confidence creates more aggressive setup calls. The aggressive setup calls produce more wins. And before long, the driver who looked like he was 60 points back is suddenly leading the championship. Nico Rosberg, the 2016 world champion, the only driver to beat Hamilton in a season-long championship battle at Mercedes, said this after interviewing Hamilton on the Barcelona podium. "We've witnessed a legendary moment of F1. It's historic for him, and this is going to propel him even higher together with his team. It's an incredible momentum at the moment over there." Rosberg's specific observation is this: Ferrari's Barcelona upgrades worked. Hamilton is now outperforming Charles Leclerc inside the same garage. The internal changes Hamilton pushed for, new race engineer Carlos Santi, the switch to Carbon Industries brake discs that suit his braking style, bolder aerodynamic development, those are all now showing results simultaneously. That is not a car getting faster. That is an entire program aligning. 3 scenarios go into Austria this weekend. Scenario 1. Ferrari's A2O engine upgrade arrives, works as expected, Hamilton takes pole or a front row position, and the title gap shrinks again before July. Scenario 2. The engine upgrade delivers less than expected, but the chassis advantage from Barcelona holds. Hamilton scores another podium, while Antonelli, who is also dealing with Mercedes' reliability concerns, drops points again. Scenario 3. Red Bull, who have scheduled their own major upgrade package for their home race at the Red Bull Ring, suddenly re-enters the title picture, making the Austrian GP a 3-way fight that scrambles the entire second half of the season. All 3 of those scenarios are live. That is what makes this race weekend different. What Austria is actually deciding this weekend? Here is the one-sentence version of everything we just covered. Ferrari arrives in Austria with a faster engine, a driver who has won 7 times at Barcelona and is now running on confidence, and a title gap that one retirement can close in an afternoon. The question Austria will answer is not whether Hamilton can still fight for an 8th world championship. Wolff and Rosberg have already told you the answer to that. The question is whether the rest of the paddock has caught up with what those 2 already know. What do you think happens in Austria this weekend? Drop your prediction in the comments. If this gave you a new angle on what Ferrari is actually building for the second half of 2026, you will want to be here tomorrow. I'm covering the Austrian GP qualifying breakdown, specifically what Ferrari's A2O engine means for the power-sensitive Red Bull Ring sectors and whether Hamilton can take pole position. Subscribe so you don't miss it.